Good evening, everyone. This is Julie White from Mansfield, Pennsylvania, and I'm very excited to be on our team Zoom tonight. I want to thank you all for joining our team Zoom. It's always great to connect with everyone, and it's really important for us all to stay plugged in. And I'm really excited to introduce our guest tonight. But first of all, I just want to give a shout out to all the rank advancements that we had. I don't see the people that rank advanced on here tonight, but you know, it's really amazing. We had one team just had a lot of rank advancements in that team, and we're going to have them on here on an upcoming Monday night to share what all they're doing. But tonight we have a really special guest, and she is in Kauai, which is a beautiful place. We had one of our trips there to Hawaii last year, and it's just gorgeous where she lives. And she and her husband, Rusty Cottrell, I hope I said that right, Debbie. They are Pro Sixes in LifeVantage, and Debbie, this is according to her husband, she's a happy wife. She's a mother of 6, ages 33 to 17, and she homeschooled them K through 12, which is amazing. We're all interested in the fact that you're a dietitian with a passion for preventative medicine and a raw food promoter. And she's a rough water ocean swimmer and an artist and an aspiring author. So, wow, that's awesome, Debbie. I love your bio, and I love your smile and your enthusiasm. I think you, not sure if I can hear you, Debbie.
I should be here.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so we're very excited to have you on here, and I was wondering if you would like to start with your story. Would you like to? Okay. Okay. Can you speak up just a little bit?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're not real loud, but we can hear you.
Okay. Hopefully it'll pick up. I don't have it muted. Let's see. Hopefully it'll be good enough. I'll try to speak loud. Is that better?
That sounds good.
Okay. I usually have a fairly soft voice unless one of the kids is in trouble. When this first came across our plate, it was one of those things that both my husband and I were very, very busy and just honestly did not have time for. And a patient brought it to him and asked him to watch the ABC investigative report, and he goes, yeah, okay, I will. And just didn't get to it. But you know what? She was very persistent, and that's what made the difference. And she called she said, can I set up a time? And he said, sure. And then she called and she said, have you watched it? And he went, no. And then so she said, okay, when's the next best time? So asked again, and they set up a time, because I told him, I said, I don't have time. And I said, if you want to take a look at it, it's great. In our office, we tend to share a lot of health with people. He's a physical therapist, and we have he has a captive audience for an hour at a time, and he enjoys sharing health along with the physical therapy. So we've always looked for a variety of health products that we can share with people at the same time. Sometimes we would buy them and put them in stock at the office, but not as a typical rule. So we're always on the lookout for things. And when he did actually take the time to look at the ABC investigative report, he really honestly thought it was a scam and just opted to, not really pursue it at that point in time. But my daughter, on the other hand, who also works in the office, she got to know the patient, and the patient then kind of went through my daughter. And Julie was very interested in, a side hustle. And she said, Dad, I think I'd like to do this, but not if it's a scam. And so he went, oh, okay, I guess I'm really gonna have to take a look at this. So he did, and I still was out of the picture at that point in time. When he really sat down to take a look at it, he went, oh, this would be something that Debbie could use, because my health has never been as great as his. And then he actually came home, and over the next 3 days, he spent all his spare time looking at the science. And within that, so he ordered one bottle for me of the NRF2. That's all that was out at that point in time. And then he all of a sudden jumped in with both feet. He says, I got to do this. I got to share this with everybody. And I went, whoa, wait a second, wait a second. And that's when I realized I'm going to have to put on my dietitian glasses. I'm going to have to take a look at this because I want to be supportive, but I also want to, you know, help him if it's a scam too. And because I knew our reputation would be on the line. So that's when I sat down and I took a look at the information myself, and I was blown away because, Julie, as you mentioned, I am definitely interested in preventative medicine, what they call functional medicine now, and helping people to regain health as well as stay healthy and have a long, functionally healthy life. And it was amazing. What I found was absolutely amazing. And right away, both of us started sharing it, you know, with family, friends, patients, you know, everybody that we came in contact with. And yes, we went through some of the no's, and yes, we went through some of the, you know, the rejection as far as people saying, no, you know, this can't be that good. And we just steered them towards PubMed, you know, hey, this is the science, you know, we can't argue with the science. So it was a fun journey. It's been a very fun journey to be able to share this. And like I said, we've shared it with numerous patients and other people. We've seen such incredible things happen. We don't claim to cure, treat, prevent, mitigate, or any diseases. But it has just been an incredible journey watching people's lives change and seeing the joy that they have with regaining their health. And we began to realize, however, that if we really wanted to share this with a lot of people, we needed to look more at the business angle, because we have one patient, his life completely changed. Did he share this with anybody? No. Did anybody ask him why it was different? No. And that was just the case. And so we realized it's actually going to be through the business model that we're going to be able to share the product with more people. So it's been just super fun to be able to share this with a lot of people.
That's an awesome story. I love that. Yeah, that's incredible. So very encouraging and inspiring. So how long have you been involved in LifeVantage?
So let's see, it's been 4.5 years now that we've been with LifeVantage and enjoying every minute.
Great, great. Well, we want to take some time for question and answers, but I thought that maybe you might have like a tip or something to share.
Absolutely. You know, as far as what we're doing now, we started out of the gate product forward. And again, as I had mentioned earlier, we realized that business forward was where we were going to really touch a lot of people's lives as far as getting the product out. I still have a tendency to do product forward, but that's because of my medical background. But when I realized, well, I should share this too. With a physical therapy practice about 2 years ago, and we went to Pro 5 very quickly, and then kind of maintained that, you know, a solid Pro 5 for quite a while. During that time, about 2 years ago, we had 2 physical therapists move into town, and it cut our workload by 2/3. So we'd had enough patient load for both my husband and the therapist that we'd hired to work there. And at that point in time, it dropped it to just enough to keep payroll going with our secretaries and with paying the other therapists. So there were many, many months that we depended completely on LifeVantage. And we were so glad that we had dug that well before we needed it. So that being said, one of the things that we realized, because we kind of held at Pro 5 for quite a while, was the building depth was so important. And, you know, working in a deeper level. So many of you may have heard of the building depth program that's going on and the Zooms that they offer. And that is just so exciting. I'd love to plug into that because they have so many helpful tips and a lot of good information. But that's what we found is going like 5 wide and at least 5 wide. My husband happens to be a little wider than that. But then building deep and looking down in each of those legs to find someone that you can work with and working with that person. And so it's the 5x5 type of a program. So that's been one of the things that we found super helpful.
That's great. I've heard so much about the building depth. So are you kind of involved with that group, Marcel?
We're not involved personally, you know, as far as being presenters, but I plug into that every other week. They have, and I'm trying to remember, I think it's first and third, but I believe Blue Elam was talking about starting up a second and fourth as well. But right now I know that they have the first and third Monday of the month, Tuesday of the month, I believe it is.
Okay, yeah.
Get that information for you.
Yeah, yes, I've heard about that too, and I've heard such positive things from it. And I've plugged into the Facebook group of Building Depth. So all of you guys, if you look on Facebook, there's a group called Building Depth, and they have an amazing program where people are really duplicating and I think it's a little more simplistic. So I know I've been watching some of Sherry Hollenbeck's videos. She's involved with that. So I would encourage you to join that group and learn more. Now, the time of the call for us in the Eastern time zone, it's at 11 p.m. at night. Wow. So I got on at one time, but I would love for them to have one a little bit earlier. But, you know, it's you know, worth it, I'm sure, to stay up and join that. Okay, yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And does anybody have a question?
Yeah, I'll ask a question. Debbie, being that you're a dietitian, your husband is a physical therapist, I mean, I think we all have that passion to maybe go to even our physicians or a doctor that we may know, but there's sort of that, you know, intimidation factor that where I'm trying to take something to them, you know, and they are the, you know, they're the white coat. And so what's the best way to approach a professional, you know, someone in the medical field, in your opinion?
That's an excellent question. I would have to say just the general would be bringing them an article, you know, one of the PubMed articles that's printed out. I have a dermatologist that I am touching base with, you know, and following up with. And that's basically what I've been doing is I'll take an article for him, one of the PubMed articles, especially like the Louisiana State skincare or skin cancer study that they did, and following up in that way. And like I said, for my husband and I, we'd never heard of the T-bar test. I mean, in the medical field, it just wasn't something that they talked about. Well, it's biochemistry. So, you know, to typical blood tests, if they were to do a T-bar test and ship it off like they do a typical blood test, it's going to oxidize by the time it gets there. So it's going to be inaccurate. So in a biochemistry lab, they can test it right away. And so it's just one thing that they use in biochemistry, but not in a typical medical field, even though it would be much more accurate to have that testing capacity, you know, in each hospital. And eventually they probably will, because it's so accurate and so helpful. So like I said, we had never heard of that. We thought that it's probably just something that they made up, and, you know, there's some scams out there, and we didn't want to put our reputation on the line. So
whatever that, so maybe if the doctor's a specialist, a heart specialist, maybe take the, I forget which was at the Ohio State, did they did the heart. So maybe if you know a heart specialist, just see if we can get 5 to 10 minutes with them and show them the article and ask them to watch the presentation.
Yes. And I don't know if you happen to see the Pose story in the gentleman that they had. He's a distributor that's underneath them, and how he actually contacted Dr. Gandhi through LinkedIn. And there's a whole new system that we're just finding out about now where you use LinkedIn, because you can actually look up, like, say, dietitians, or look up cardiologists, or, you know, right there on LinkedIn, and it can give you a whole list. I mean, Facebook is more limited to names versus to you know, an occupation, that sort of thing. So that's actually what he went through, was LinkedIn. And, you know, you start the conversation and you become the friend. That's the primary thing. And even, you know, with a doctor, and I love the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's been one of my favorites recently. I'm just going through it again for the second time. And, you know, he talks about how to become a friend, how to listen, how to ask questions, and then as well as that, coming from that angle, once you've made that friendship, even with a doctor, you know, they're much more open to hearing what you have to share. And I think that's true for anybody. So that's, you know, Julie, as you said, you know, asking about tips and things, that's one other thing that I would say is really cultivate a love for people and a willingness to get to know them and to be the friend first. And then the other just seems to fall into place as you find out where their pain is and you're able to share that with them.
Right. Yeah. I thought you were going to say that. You just seem like a very caring person. And I have a doctor related question too. There's actually someone on the Zoom here tonight who is in contact with a doctor, and he's been having a really hard time. He wants to talk with another doctor about the peer-reviewed studies, and he's having a really hard time finding a doctor who can do the three-way call. Do you have any recommendations, or do you know perhaps anybody there, even in Hawaii, that might be available for something like that?
That's a fabulous question, and that is so helpful to have someone who is in that field in particular. Like for my husband, talking with other physical therapists, or, you know, like if you could get Dondi Nettles to talk with a chiropractor, that sort of thing. So I would say, you know, when you go to the events, the very first event that I went to, I was so honed in on, are there other medical professionals? That's what I did. I kind of looked at everybody's name tag. When I saw doctor, I went up to him and I introduced myself and I talked to him. I asked, how long have you been in this? And what did you like about it? And asked them questions. And then if they wanted to give their contact information, you know, would you be available for three-ways and that sort of thing. So going to the events is invaluable for that, you know, as you get to know people at events. And like I said, just look at their name tags. I love the fact that many people have that on their tags.
Yes, that's a very good point. So you don't really have anybody that you know that does three-way calls that's a doctor?
No, actually, I don't. In fact, my dad's a doctor, and it's the typical family thing. He takes Protandim.
Okay. He doesn't really know, isn't familiar with his studies or anything.
No, he just takes it because I told him I think you ought to take it. And
okay, well, good. He's a good dad then.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. And
I wish I did know some, you know, and again, getting to know them at the events.
Right. That's a good idea.
Seeing if they would do those three-ways.
Right, right. Okay, there's someone on here who sent you a couple of questions in the chat box.
Oh, perfect. Yes, very good. I would have to, maybe I should read the question just in case there are people who didn't get to see it. So it says, when it comes to prospects to share your business with, do you key in on certain professionals or individuals? I would have to answer no. When I share this, I get to know the people, and there's some people that they're perfectly happy with their life, they're perfectly happy with their health, and they have no need. So, you know, I make the friendship, I get the contact information, and I'll follow up later with them and just see how they're doing. I have one gal that has fibromyalgia, and I shared this with her, and her husband didn't want her to take it, and that was okay. So I've just maintained that friendship, and I just keep following up with her just as a friend. And eventually she'll come up to what Seth calls that high noon place. And then it also, when you do bring up your business, what do you lead with to get their attention, and how would you answer the question, what is it? I love the if I would you. So once I find out their pain, if it's, let's say, a physical pain, if I could share something with you that would help, you know, with your issue, your physical issue, or has the potential to help with that, would you be interested in taking a look at it? Or if it's business, if I could share something with you that could potentially help you have that little extra bit of cash every month, would you be interested in taking a look at it? So I think that's very helpful, that if I would you. The question, what is it? It really depends on who it is. If it's somebody that is, let's say, more of a product person versus a business person, I would probably share the biohacking and the nutrigenomics. In fact, I've had people say, what is it? And I'll say, well, do you know what nutrigenomics is? And, you know, more people than not say, no, I have no idea what that is. And I said, great. When do you have time that I can share some of that information with you? And I might tell them a little bit, you know, nutrigenomics is nutrients or nutrition that will help your genome, nutri and genomics. So, you know, then they'll go, okay, and they're interested, and they'll usually be much more open at that point in time. As far as a business question, if it's a business prospect and they say, what is it? Or typically they don't even say, what is it? They go, is this network marketing? And I love my husband's answer. He goes, yeah, does that scare you? And, you know, very often than not, they'll go, well, no, not particularly. Or they'll say, well, I've tried a few of them and it just didn't work for me. And then there's also the answer, you know, is it network marketing? And, oh, you sound like you have some experience with network marketing. Tell me about your experience, because that puts the question right back to them and you find out more about them.
Very good. Excellent. Anybody else have a question? Let's see here. Trying to see my.
Hi.
Hello?
Hi.
You got stuck here.
Hi, this is Mary. I wondered if Debbie and her husband would be available for three-way calls. I have a couple nutritionists and also a chiropractor that I thought that would, you know, be great for them to speak with them.
I would be more than happy to, and I believe I can answer for my husband that he would be happy to as well.
Awesome.
Well,
How would we get the number?
Ooh, I can share that with you. Would you prefer if I type it, or would you prefer if I say it? How about if I say it and I'll let someone type it? So my phone number is 808-635-0820. And Rusty's is 808-635-3831. But I have to tell you, we're in a big time zone difference, so I do turn off my phone at night, so I don't get any surprise calls. So we're about 6 hours difference from Julie at this point in time. So in Hawaii, we are Hawaii Standard Time. So it's about 3 hours from Pacific, and then you calculate 6 hours from the East Coast.
Yes, there is a big time change. So great.
Is that a bed and breakfast number?
No, that's
No.
those are our cells.
Okay. So Debbie, we don't have too much time left. But I was wondering if you could give us just maybe like one highlight on each product in the Vitality Stack. Just a one-liner on each of them.
Oh, that's an awesome question. I love that. See, NRF2, because it was the first one, a one-liner. I would say, if I share what it activates the body to make its own antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, and anti-carcinogenic enzymes.
Could you repeat that one more time, please?
Sure. It activates the body to make its own antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and anti-carcinogenic enzymes.
Okay, great.
Then NRF, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, NRF1, it targets the mitochondria, keeping it healthy, and let's see, I don't really like the way that sentence sounds. It's the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So it really targets the powerhouse of the cell, keeping them healthy, helping them to replicate in a healthy way. You know, I love the NRF1. There's so much about it because NRF1, when a cell starts to deteriorate, it's like a nuclear power plant that sort of explodes. You know, we all heard about Chernobyl and things like that in Japan when the tsunami hit those powerhouses. When those mitochondria start to deteriorate, they kick out oxidative stress. They kick out free radicals. So it's really amazing when you can get the mitochondria healthy, you actually help reduce oxidative stress in the cell. So really, it's truly, they go hand in hand. The simplest way to describe it is it is the powerhouse for the NRF2. You know, when I tell, if people want to know why I recommend the NRF1 is because it's the powerhouse of the cell and it helps the body make those enzymes that are so important. I know that's longer than a sentence.
That's fine. We just love to hear your expertise on it. And one quick question before you go on to the next product. How do you recommend taking the NRF1 and the 2? And I know there's a lot of different ways that people are doing it. Do
Right.
you take them together or how do you take them?
You know, even with the NRF2, the NRF1, it's also individual. I know a psychologist, and she can't take the NRF1 in the morning. It makes her sleepy. So she takes it at night. So, you know, people find that well, I had detox for 2 years with the NRF2. I took half a tablet for almost 2 years. I'm taking a full tablet now, which is fabulous, but it's very individual. So if they're having a particular symptom, you know, or what I would classify as a reaction to it, you know, cutting it back or trying a different time would really be the best way to deal with it.
Do you recommend taking them together or separate?
Originally, Dr. Fifi said take the NRF1 in the morning with some water, although the coenzyme Q actually works better with a little bit of oil. Mm-hmm. So my verdict is kind of out on that one. She said ultimately if you're forgetful, just take them all at once. So it's really cool because the NRF1, the NRF2, and the fish oil would all work in synergy because it helps to have that little bit of oil with both the NRF1 and NRF2.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. The Axio I love because my son was addicted to monsters, and that was traumatic for me. But you know, with adult children, what do you do?
Right.
So I just said, hey, would you try the caffeinated version of this Axio? And he did. And he says, I like that. He goes, I can do that. And then he wanted to try the decaf. And the way it activates the brain, he doesn't need the caffeine. So he's off monsters. He loves the Axio, and he doesn't even have to have the caffeine for it. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So it's I call the Axio NRF2 brain activation, or you know, activate the NRF2 in the brain.
Right, very good. What
Yeah.
about the probiotic?
The probiotic, I'm a real stickler about probiotics in that I test them. And I would find expensive ones that I would try to culture. You know, I'm a vegan, so I do cultured soy milk. And some of them weren't even active. So yeah, we crushed this one up and we mixed it in and we cultured food with it, and it is active. So that was very exciting to find that. And of course, for most people, the probiotic, the evidence is in the taking of it because of how it affects the gut health. And too, I should mention, there is a doctor who, with some of his patients that were not responding to the NRF2 and the NRF1, when he added the probio in, there's something about how the gut absorbed it that they started to have a positive response. So that we know that probio is working and, you know, helping with the whole, you know, the whole process.
Absolutely. Do you think you get the best results with the probiotic when you take it first thing in an empty stomach?
That's what Dr. Chevreau recommended, and but it does have the coating that's to get it through that stomach acid. But I take it on an empty stomach in the morning, you know, with my water. That's what I do.
Great. Okay, and how about the omega?
The omega, again, being a vegan, this was a tough one for me. And I am vegan for 2 reasons, health reasons, as well as I care about those little fishies in the ocean. But that being said, you know, we're hoping that they'll eventually come out with an algae formula that's not a fish oil.
Okay.
But I do like the fish oil. The hardcore test is to take one of those capsules and bite it.
Right.
And it doesn't taste fishy.
I
And
know.
being able to look back at what boat it came off of and how it was processed and when it was processed, that's phenomenal. So I do really like that process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Julie, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
I had a gentleman, he's doing some work for us, and he's Amish, and we were talking, and it just in the conversation, I said, yeah, it sounds like you're taking Protandim, and he kind of looked at me. He said, well, I was, but it was giving me headaches. Is that the detox effect?
Yes, Doc Marvin had a cleansing response paper, and if you all have not seen that, I can make sure to get a copy to Julie, and she can get it to all of you. And he recommends, a lot of people have kind of a flu-like response, and it is just, I liken it to sweeping a dusty garage, and you kick up that dust and you start breathing it, what's going to happen? You're going to cough. So it does stir up a lot of dust in the body, a lot of junk in the body, and then the body has to eliminate that. And especially if people are not drinking water. And I find more often than not that, if you really want this to work well and you really want a clean house, you're going to have to hose down the dust. And doing that with plenty of water is so invaluable.
Would it be a good recommendation to tell them to maybe take half of one instead of a whole one?
Absolutely. In fact, I had, at about 4 months of taking a full tablet, I just looked at my husband. I went, I cannot do this anymore. And I actually emailed Doc Marvin, and immediately he emailed me back and he said, cut it back to actually a quarter. And that's what I did. And cutting it back to the quarter and then giving it about a week, bumping it to a third, then another week, bump up to half. And I found that I could do the half. And, every 2 or 3 months, I'd try the full one, and boom, right back to that cleansing response. And I just go back to the half. So that's very, very good question and very important.
And then eventually you could take a whole one?
Yep, I take a whole one now. And
That's awesome.
Yeah. In fact, every day, and when I fly, I do take the 2. I take one in the morning and one at night. But I'm not quite at 2 yet.
Okay.
What's the best way to cut those?
They actually break pretty easy. I was surprised. To do the quarters, you need a knife. but you can break them in half with your fingers.
Well, my sister has lupus, and she was trying to break them up, and actually, I mean, didn't matter what size because she was detoxing so bad. And so I told her to try crushing it and mixing it in water, and then just
Yep,
drink
that
it.
works. And you can also get a little pill cutter. They have
Right.
little pill cutters that don't cost much. Let's see, we have a couple other questions because we're really out of time here, and I don't want to hold everybody too long. But let's see here what these other questions are.
Oh, the Axio activates, it's like NRF2 activation for the brain, the Axio.
Okay, great. Okay, and the detox page, everyone wants that.
I'll make sure that you get that.
Okay. Why should people start with a vitality stack if they could have a detox effect? Wouldn't that make it worse?
And that's a good question, because obviously if they're having to cut the pill in half, they're going to be having an overabundance of the NRF2 if they're cutting that in half. I would have to say the majority of people don't have to take a half for long. I was one of those anomalies, but like I said, my health has never been that great, even as a small child. So I think that most people would bump up pretty quick, but yeah, there might have a month or two where they might just need to order some individual items rather than the vitality stack, but it shouldn't be that long.
Yes, and Dr. Viglione, she has noticed that when people take the Nerf 1 with the Nerf 2, that they don't have, there's not as much detox.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's another thing to consider, you know, if they take both. So, well,
Yeah.
this has been awesome. So I really appreciate you taking the time out, Debbie, to share with us tonight. It was fantastic, and we just love hearing all this information. So I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight.
Good night.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Debbie. Bye, Debbie.
All right. You all have a wonderful evening.
Bye, Debbie.
Good
Bye,
night,
Gina.
everyone.
Bye, Dick.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Mark.
Hey there. How are you, Gary? Nice to see you, your handsome face.
That's me, all right.
Absolutely. And, you know, never be shy about it either.